Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is it. This is the big one. Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, the only competition that matters. Yep. Joining me as always is Mr. Joe Smith. Joe, it's been an absolutely phenomenal time being a Manchester United fan. It's up there with 99 and 08 for me.
Yeah, me too. It's up there with that. It's up there with
root canal surgery.
Yeah, the fall of the Berlin Wall. You know, the assassination of JFK. Fucking ace, isn't it? It's just.
Where were you when JFK got shot? Do you remember?
Where was I? I can't remember now. I think it was at school.
Was you?
Yeah, not my school, a different school.
Right, okay.
Chatting to chicks. It's just awful, isn't it?
Anyway,
it's just horrendous.
I'd love to digress, but at some point we have to talk about football and we have to get realistic about it.
Yeah.
Manchester United are a shambles.
Yes.
Officially, let's be honest. There's no other way to put it. Yes, we beat Copenhagen, we beat Sheffield United, and we beat Brentford. But let's be realistic. We've also lost to Spurs, Arsenal, Palace, Brighton,
7 times this season, Jack.
Bayern Munich, Galatasaray, City. 7 times, 7 defeats, and it's still October. I mean, that is impressive.
Yeah,
that sort of record. The League Cup sort of takes on a more important meaning for me now because. This is your best bet of silverware. You might argue, realistically, it's your only chance of silverware. I know we've still got the FA Cup to come, but yeah, a lot of teams tend to take that a little bit more seriously. How important is this game? Because we use the words must win a lot of time. We've said it practically every game this season.
Yeah.
But to get knocked out at home, to lose another home game, and to get knocked out by the team that you beat in the final last season, which again would be an indicator of us going backwards, would be pretty catastrophic.
Yeah, it would. And we've got a little note on the screen there about we can't just lose every time we play against a good team. And that is the case at the minute. The only teams we're beating, not that we're beating all of them, we're still losing to some bad teams, but the only teams we are beating are ones we are way better than in terms of squad, in terms of investment, in terms of history, in terms of everything. And even then, we're making a meal of it. So when you look at Newcastle, obviously a lot of those things, we're obviously a much bigger team, history, but squad and form, we're worse than them. Maybe the squad, you could argue, I think United squad is probably better than Newcastle's, but we're certainly not as good as them at the moment. So just by the rule of how we play this season, we'll lose this game. And that can't keep happening. And I don't really know why it's happening. It feels like there's so many little problems. Like the defensive injuries, maybe that's not a little problem, that's a medium problem. Then Rashford can't score. Then Bruno can't get any assists or score. Højlund hasn't scored. Then Ten Hag seems to have sort of gone down this road of almost, being so coy and so sort of guarded that he's saying things that are just seemingly insane. Then you've got the ownership stuff, you've got this, you've got the stadium, the investment, this, that, the other, Murtaugh and all. Like, there's so many little issues that it's almost like we are going to look the same as we did against City, against Newcastle. It's going to be the same. There's no quick fix. So we have to just grind it out. We have to not miss chances. But it is a must-win, and I think if you look at big games that cost you your job as a manager, because let's face it, that's what ends up happening. It's games like this. At home to City, okay, it's shit. It's another sign that they're better than us, but we knew they were better than us. That point you made, we played them in the Carabao Cup final last season. We're comfortably better than them. Sort of, man versus boy type football, wasn't it? They tried, but we just went, no, you're not winning this. If that has now swung to they do the same to us at Old Trafford, that is a really, really bad sign for Ten Hag.
Yeah, I think the trouble is as well, when you keep losing your home games, you're losing those games obviously in front of your match-going fans.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that match-going fans are more important than non-match-going fans or anything like that. That's an argument that's just nonsensical. But it tends to be the match-going fans that stick with the manager the longest. Yeah. However, if they're watching their team get beat week in, week out, because I know you get match-going fans at away games, but obviously a far less amount or far fewer, they're going to start turning on the manager. Yeah. If they start turning on the manager, you'll see a lot of toxicity online anyway. Then it makes it easier for the board to get rid of him, because the board can go, well, look, if you listen to the crowds, they're not with him anymore.
No.
If you look online, the fans aren't with him anymore. The results are terrible. It's just everything adds up to going, let's just get someone else in, which is what this club has done ever since, not just since Sir Alex left, by the way. Historically, people look at Busby and Ferguson examples of how United always stick with our managers. It's not always the case. We went through a lot of managers post Sir Matt Busby until we got to Sir Alex. I know Ron Atkinson was there for about 5.5 years, I think, but you had Dockett, you had Farrell, you had the Sexton, you had McGuinness. It was like managers aren't really working. Post Fergie, we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that just 18 months into his tenure, the club could get rid of him. Because Moyes lasted, 8 months? Van Gaal 2 seasons. Ollie, was it 2 and a bit seasons?
Yeah.
Mourinho, something similar. Ragnick was obviously different because he was only on a short-term contract, although he never got to see the other role he was meant to fulfil. It was this sort of director of football or whatever it was going to be. He just went on to Austria. So the idea that we won't get rid of the manager or that we're not that kind of club, I don't think it's true. Yeah. And I think if you do lose the fans, both online and in the game, at the game, then you're going to be in serious trouble. One way of turning this around, or one sort of set of players he could turn to, are the youngsters.
Yeah.
Because we've sort of tried the experienced heads, your Ericssons, your Maguires, your Evanses, your Lindelofs. It's not really happening, is it? I know it's different because obviously, this is a Carabao Cup game and we saw how we were against Palace and we've seen how sometimes teams play a weak side. But I expect Newcastle, we'll get to them in a minute, to play a pretty strong team because they want silverware. United, can they afford to try some youngsters? Can we afford to bring in maybe a Kobe Mainu, a Hannibal Mejbri and a Garnacho or Palestra?
Yeah, I think we should. I don't think it should be all of them. I think that's just, it looks like desperation and it can easily backfire entirely. You can, you play youngsters sometimes, you just look like you've played a load of kids and they're not very good. But I think one or two of them should get a chance. Weirdly, I think the defence in and of itself wasn't United's biggest issue against City. I think the midfield was more of an issue. Especially in the second half, after the substitution, funnily enough, inability to offer any counter threat whatsoever. At least first half, there were times where we'd have, a 3-on-3 counter attack, 3-on-4. McTominay wasted one and he had a good shot. I know it was in the second half, but it was very early on. Rashford should have been played into the second half. It was like they just passed through us, run past us, and we don't do anything. So I don't even mind the defence, but the likes of Mainu, who's coming back from injury, and Hannibal put in very good performances for Manchester United. Both of them have, especially Hannibal recently. But I think he fancies Mainu a little bit more. Give him a go. Give something different, something, a bit of energy, something that maybe as well Newcastle aren't planning for. Don't know exactly how they play, don't know their weaknesses quite as much. I think it's worth it and it's worth a try. I wouldn't go all out and, oh my God, he's lost it, he's playing the entire reserves or the entire under-18s, whatever. That would be a worry. But I think, let's try something a little bit different now. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been advocating it for a while. Yeah. I wanted to see I didn't think it would happen. I wanted to see players like Hannibal playing in the league. I've been crying for him to put back in the team. And I don't know why he hasn't. I think his performances have been good for us this season. He's not played many games, but I think he's done well. And I think he got subbed on against Galatasaray, and I don't think he's been back in since, which I thought was a little bit harsh because I don't feel like he's been one of the problems. And I think he brings something different to the team, especially in that midfield that you spoke about, which has been missing. Someone who can get about the pitch, get hold of the ball, sort of do the rough and ready stuff, and also pick a pass and carry the ball as well. I really like Hannibal, and I think he's at an age where you can put him in. He's not a kid. I think, what is he, 20? But he's been around a little while. He's been on. He's had low moves.
He's played international football.
He's played international football. Yeah. He's shone for the academy and for the under-23s. So I'd like to see him in the team. I think Garnacho is more or less in and around the first team anyway. He always gets minutes, if not starts. I think Rashford has been poor recently. You know my thoughts on Marcus Rashford, but I've not got the blinkers on. He's not been good enough.
No.
And are you just going to keep playing him? Is that the solution to the Marcus Rashford problem? Just keep picking him until he starts scoring again? Or do you say, hang on a minute, it's time to rest him, in inverted commas, drop him? Because I think it should be time to give Garnacho a start. He had some starts to be in the season. Didn't set the world alive, being honest. And that was it then. All right, well, that's him starting. Why not give him another chance? I think I would like to see a few youngsters starting. With all that being said, let's talk about our predicted 11. This isn't who we want to see starting. This is who we feel Erik ten Hag is going to pick for the Carabao Cup game against Newcastle at Old Trafford. Joe, we'll start with yours.
Yeah, and the back four, I have tweaked it slightly. I brought Varane back in. I don't think 2 games in 4 days for Johnny Evans is good for anyone, really.
No.
I've got Dalot, obviously sort of has to play. Onana, I think, sort of speaks for himself. Was good against City. Maguire, again, I thought he had a decent game against City. It wasn't amazing, no one was, but I don't think he was exposed or particularly weak in that game. And I've brought Reguilon back in. I do think we need something more resembling a bit of energy and a bit of sort of the speed and sort of left-footedness, if nothing else, and overlapping that you get from Reguilon. I think that'll help Rashford out. And obviously in the midfield there, I've brought in Mainu back in. Like I said before, I think he's good. I think the manager fancies him. I think he likes him.
I do think the manager likes him. Yeah. Definitely. I think you've got a good point there.
I've kept Eriksen in there because I think we need his passing ability. This is on the assumption that Casemiro is still not fully fit, and I've brought Amrabat back in. I think Scott McTominay's just failed to do anything of note. Obviously he scored the goals, but as a midfielder, in his midfield role, he's failed to do anything of note in the games he's started recently. I don't see why he would keep starting. Eriksen has done good things, Amrabat has done good things, and I think Mainu as well. I've kept Bruno on the right, which I don't love him out there, but again, dropping back into the middle when when they've got the ball, playing out from the right, and we haven't got many good options on the right either, so why not play him there? And then I've stuck with Rashford and Højlund because I think Højlund's due a goal. I think he's been slightly unlucky, and I think if if Rashford's going to come out of this form, I think playing him with a proper left back and with Eriksen as well, I think that link up can work is the best way to get him out of this form. So I've brought Mainu in and sort of twiddled with the back four, but I think we need to sort of make some changes, but we can't go completely wholesale, I don't think.
I get your point. I just want to ask you about the Maguire thing because I've heard sort of different opinions on this, and I understand your point of view. He wasn't that bad against City.
Yeah.
My issue is, and I struggle to know and understand this. It just looked like a bit of a mess at the back at times. It looked like there was no communication between him and Evans. And I don't know, do you put that more on Evans? Do you think that Evans was part of the team? Or do you feel like, because there was times when they just looked like they'd met that morning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it got a little bit exposed. And I see your point of like Maguire wasn't. I thought Evans was probably the poorer of the two, but I just felt between the pair of them, neither of them really sort of did it for me.
No, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they were great. Yeah. And I don't think he was great. But I think Johnny Evans is older. Yeah. Has played less football over the last 12 months at a lower level. Yeah. I think he got caught out a little bit more than Maguire did. Their third goal is just ball watching. Haaland gets
that's on Evans. Yeah. So my point isn't. So I get your point about him being better than Evans. My point, that I've not explained very well is you would pick him over Lindelof. Is my point.
Yes, I would.
And you think the manager will? More importantly, if you
I do think he will. I think that Lindelof is okay. I think we saw it again the other. When was it? Was it against City or was it the game before?
I felt. Do you know what? I felt sorry for Lindelof because he's not a left back.
No.
And he just isn't. And whether you think he's good enough United is one thing, but at left back, he shouldn't be playing there. And it's sort of indicative of the luck we've had with injuries and some of the signings we might have made, you could argue.
I think Lindelof's at his worst when he's playing against physical, highly energetic forwards. Yeah. Like, we saw that he was trying to shield the ball out and not really getting his body across, and they towed it back into the box. And Newcastle, for me, when I've watched them this season, there's a lot of technicality there, but the thing that really is impressive about Newcastle is how hard they run, how physical they are. They get stuck into everything. They don't stop sprinting at you. And I think Lindelof struggles with that. Yeah. I don't think it's much better playing Maguire, but you're running out of centre-backs at some point.
And I know, so I think if you look at the whole sort of last 5 games or 4 games, Maguire's done well in at least three of them, I think. I think he did well against Copenhagen, Brentford and Sheffield United, shall we say.
And hopefully Varane will bring some of that discipline and shape that we did lose, I agree, against City. Yeah. But like I said, you've got to play one of Maguire, Lindelof or Evans, and I think of the 3, Maguire's on the best form and actually suits playing against Newcastle.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I found it difficult to sort of really, because I only watched the game there live. I didn't obviously watch it again because he would want to. And you don't get replays or anything like that. It was like I couldn't really say. Is it the pair of them? Is it one of them? Is it? I know you're right about the I think the second goal was all Evans, or a big part of it, so I should say. Yeah. My starting 11 isn't that much difference. The only one I've brought in is I've gone with Garnacho. I think Rashford for whatever you want to call it, dropping him, resting him, whatever. Mm-hmm. He looks done in. Yeah, he does. And there was a moment in the derby where City scored there. It was either the second or the third, I can't remember. And Rashford was stood right near Ten Hag. He'd walked back to his position on the left, right in front of the dugout, and he just looked done. I think it might be the second goal. He looked done. There was not, and you know, some players are like, come on, like, let's come on. And he just looked like, and then Eric Ten Hag stood right there, and I just thought, is Eric Ten Hag looking at him thinking, your head's dropped? I mean, he kept him on the pitch for a little while longer, so he can't have thought too harshly of him. But I just thought, is that the sort of signal there to the manager? Look, whether you like him or not, is it time to take him out of this team? Because it's just not happening for him. I don't know. But I think he might just decide, if he is going to do it for any game, this is the one to do it for. At least give Garnacho 45, give him the first half and just see what he's about. Because I do like Alejandro Garnacho. I know he's obviously had off-the-field issues with that tweet, but he should still be available for this one as far as I know. Everything else you said, Kobbie Mainoo, like him coming in. Højlund doing everything but scoring, apart from the Champions League, of course, where he's got a few. I'm bringing Anthony back in. Lucky not to get a red card, I felt, against City. That could have gone the other way. But the back five is the same as well. Let's talk about Newcastle, because they had the draw against Wolves. There was quite a few incidents there. They obviously lost at home to Dortmund. The loss at home to Dortmund seems to sort of just acts as almost a little bit of a reminder that Newcastle aren't quite there yet, in terms of, because they had a rough spell at the beginning of the season, but they were playing like, they had Liverpool, they had City, then they had a good run. And then it's like the Dortmund game felt like, okay, you know what, there's still a little bit of work to do, and obviously drawing at Wolves as well. But like you mentioned, this is a team that's very good and got some hugely talented players. Yeah, and they have been a bit up and down, which is something that gives me a bit of confidence. Like, they beat City in the League Cup, and then I thought they got, not embarrassed is the wrong word, like you said, a bit of a reality check against Dortmund. Yeah, I felt that PSG game came out, smashed him up, really. Yeah, there was a fantastic performance. Can't fault that performance.
Dortmund were finding big gaps at times, and you watch it thinking, "Oh, I didn't realise those gaps were still there." I thought Newcastle were consistent enough and well drilled enough to not allow that, and I thought that Dortmund team should have maybe even scored more than one that they did. But it has been a bit up and down this season, with real high highs and sort of, you know, slightly poor lows. So I do think they're a beatable team, especially away from home. They do lose an edge when they leave St James's Park, which is fair enough. Most teams do. And Isaac being injured is helps Man United. I think he's a good player. I think Callum Wilson's good, but
he steps up on Callum Wilson. I think his minutes per goal, or whatever you want to call it, is quite good. It's quite impressive.
Well, he scored more than Isaac last season, didn't he? Certainly in the league. But I think what Isaac does on the ball and off the ball without scoring is a big loss for them.
Isaac's one of those players as an opposing fan, you look at it, Callum Wilson.
He was excellent against United at St James's Park last season.
Callum Wilson he's a good player. He's not one of those players where you go, oh my God, we're facing Callum Wilson.
No.
I'm going to eat my words here. But with Isaac, there is an element of that to him. I feel like you think, oh, this is a kid who could cause trouble. But like we said earlier, Newcastle have got some decent quality. That's why they've been getting some of the results they've been getting. With all that being said, give us your score prediction, my friend.
Ah, God, we've got to win or lose as well, haven't we? I can't pick a draw. Does it straight to penalties, or have we got extra time? Do we know?
Penalties, I think it's penalties.
I think we'll win on penalties. I'm going to go... I don't think we'll score. I'm going to go 0-0. Repeat of last year's game at Old Trafford. 0-0, United win on penalties. Sorry, I can't be more optimistic than that, but I don't see how we're going to score. We don't score. What do you think?
I fear the worst, you know.
Yeah,
I do. I think the way, like... Even the wins aren't filling me with confidence.
No.
Sheffield United are woeful, and we beat them. Brentford, it was a bit of a smash and grab at the end. And Copenhagen, for about 50 minutes, we were terrible.
Yeah. The only win all season that's been confident and comfortable was the Palace one in the League Cup, and they sort of didn't really try.
I hope I'm wrong, but I think we'll lose.
Fuck.
I do. And before you start getting, Jay, I want us to win, obviously. But I just don't think we will. I'm going to go 1-0 Newcastle. I hope I'm wrong. I just think things could actually get worse before they get better.
God.
Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let me know why I'm wrong. And also, film yourself in landscape on your phone. 30 seconds. Give us your score prediction. Send it to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. Joseph, where can people find you?
Just searching through the bins for a bit of goodwill and hope.
You'll find me sat underneath my bed. Just rocking back and forth. Eating ice cream with my hands. Listening to...
Dido. White Flag on repeat.
Exactly. On that bombshell, this has been the Newcastle Carabao Cup preview. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Moy. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.